first session yesterday that we're going to look at throwing. So the equipment we're going to need are going to be some objects to throw. We want them to be reasonably heavy and about the size to fit in one hand. So if you've got bean bags, I managed to pick these up from Home Bargains a couple of weeks ago now. I've been doing some stuff in the house with my baby. But if you don't have bean bags, another good option is to get a freezer bag, fill it with rice or some beans, something that's dry, and then you can pop it in a sock and it makes a similar thing to a bean bag actually. And then you just tie the sock at the top and it'll give you an object to throw that lands nicely rather than bouncing out like a pair of socks rolled up in a ball would. So I'll just show you what I mean. Something a bit like that, so a nice bit of weight to it, fits in the hand, and when it hits the floor, it stops pretty still. Another bit of equipment you're going to need today are some targets to throw the beanbag in. You can pick some things around your house, little toy mop bucket there, I've got a normal mop bucket, little wooden wicker basket, and a washing basket. So you can see the size of these varies, okay, and that's quite important for these games because we're going to try and add some challenge to it, try and differentiate it a little bit. So try and get at least three objects you can throw in that are all various sizes, and then we can play the games at the end and it'll add a little bit more challenge and it'll make it a bit more interesting. And our last piece of equipment we need are some markers, okay? I know lots of you won't have cones in your house. I'm just going to show you now, same thing, but I'm just going to use some trainers I've got lying around. Okay, so these are going to be the same thing, it's just going to show us where to take the shots from, where to throw from, to make it a bit easier, okay? So you need object to throw, a bean bag, or a bean sock. You need at least three objects to throw the bean bag into, and then you need 5 things to mark down where we're going to take our shots from today. First task then, we're just going to get warmed up with this bean bag, so we're just going to try and balance it on different body parts. You could choose maybe your head, you could choose your shoulders, your arms, and you're just going to move around your safe space trying to keep the bean bag off the floor. If it falls on the floor, don't worry, just pick it up and start again. If you can keep it off the floor, great, okay. So I want to see this, people moving with control, don't be wiggling your arms or it is going to fall off. Try and be steady, use your eyes, watch the bean bag, see where it is to make sure you're focused on it, and you know if it is wobbling one side, then you have to adjust your body to keep it balanced. And then just walk around. After a few seconds, switch what body part you balance your beanbag on, and let's keep doing the same thing. Bit of a challenge, if you're indoors and the ground's slidey, can you move around somehow keeping your beanbag balanced on your knee and no other body part, okay? Just balance it on your knee, and can you work out a way to travel? Of course though, we don't always like to move on our feet in PE, so another possible way of moving the beanbag around, could you balance it on your stomach and try and move with weight on your hands, going sideways? Could you possibly balance it on the back of your neck, on hands and feet, and maybe try and move, keeping one foot off the ground? So I'll leave that up to you to come up with at least 5 different ways of travelling, keeping your beanbag off the ground. Right, so we're now going to look at throwing for accuracy, okay? Like most of my P lessons, I'll give you a chance to be creative first. I don't always like to tell you the answers. I like you to try and work it out for yourself. So what you're going to need is a target, bigger the easier, remember, so if you want to challenge, get smaller, and you're going to need a marker, okay? And of course, your beanbag. What I'd like you to do, place your marker about 1.5 meters, 2 big steps away from your target, and try and come up with at least 5 ways of throwing your beanbag to land in the target, okay? So don't just do always the same technique, try and come up with creative ways. Think about maybe throwing backwards, you can throw through your legs, you could throw 2 hands flicking over your head. So I'll let that be your challenge, 5 different ways of getting your beanbag to land in your target. Once you've got 5 ways, have a think about which one is the best one. Tell your friend, tell your mum, tell your dad, whoever you're doing this lesson with, and then let's see if it's the same way that I'm going to show you next. If you're struggling with some ideas of how to throw the beanbag in a variety of ways, I'll just give you a quick few examples now, which will hopefully give you a few ideas to try yourself. So idea number one, you could do it with your back to the target, 2 hands on your beanbag, try and throw it over. Ooh, close to land in the basket. Number two, you could try and throw sideways, make a gate with your legs, with 1 hand, try and throw under. Try and throw with 2 hands behind your back, trying to flick it over your back with your head to land in the target. And last one, you could try throw with your weak hand over your head to land it. Hopefully you enjoyed that. You should have had 5 or more ways of throwing the beanbag to try and land in your target. There is of course one correct way I ask you to try and find, and that is the underarm throw. Okay, I'm sure lots of you back home have managed to work that one out, and you should remember it from some P lessons we've done in the past. So there's 2 key things I always say you need to do before you even throw the beanbag to make sure you reach your goal, which is landing it in the target. First thing, okay, is you need to get your feet set up right. You need to point your toe to the target. So I throw with my right hand, so my left toe is going to point towards the target. It's no good throwing with your foot over here because it's going to go a different direction, okay? So point your toe to the target that you're aiming for, and that gets your body set up right. The second thing you need to do is all to do with the eyes, and you need to keep your eyes on the prize. You need to look where you want to throw the beanbag. If you focus on your target, you look at your target, it keeps it in your sights, and it helps you really judge the power you need on your throw. There's no point looking over at what's going on in the trees if you're trying to land it in this washing basket. Okay, so eyes on the prize, toe to the target. One key point when it comes to pointing your toe to the target is you want to make sure you're pointing your right toe, and that's dependent on which hand that you throw with, okay? So if you're throwing with your right hand, you want your left toe pointing towards the target, so the beanbag can be in your right hand and it has a nice area for a clean throw. If you put your right foot forward and throw in your right hand, then it can catch on your leg, it can get in the way a bit, and it sometimes knocks the throw off to the side. So always make sure it's the opposite toe to what hand you throw with, okay? So you need to set your foot up correctly to help your body aligned, so then it can help you reach your target with the beanbag. So now we're going to look at practicing the underarm throw before we put this into a few little games. Okay, so first little activity, get your target, and you're going to start off 1 big step back. Okay, if you score 5 consecutive shots using the underarm throw, landing it in your target, you can then go and take 2 steps back from the target. If you score 5 in a row again, then you take another step back, so then you'll be 3 in total, okay? So using the space that you have, see how far back you can get with scoring consecutive throws. If you miss 1, you don't go back to the start, you just start on 0 from your current step marker. So if I was to get first 5, then second 5, then the third 5, I'd be on my 4th step back. If I missed 1 then, I wouldn't go back to the start, I'd just stay on my 4th step and I'd keep trying to get 5 in the row before I can move back 1. Okay, hopefully you've had a bit of practice there then, and we're well trained in our underarm throw, and we can access these next few games. Okay, like always in my P lessons, try and make it a little bit fun. I'm going to now show you a few ways you can still develop your underarm throw, but you're going to do it in a competitive situation where you can try and beat someone in your household, you can try and score a certain amount of points in a time, and also so you can make some games up yourself. So I'll give you a rough idea what to do, and then I'd like you to try and adapt it in certain ways to see if you can have a different way of scoring points. So my first game, I've set it up a little bit like this. I've got a trainer to show me where to throw from. I've got a small target, a medium target, slightly larger target, and then my big target at the back. So it goes gradually bigger as we go further back. And to play the game, you need your beanbag, okay? And you can decide how many shots you want to take. I'm just going to play a game 5 shots. So I'll have 1 shot, I'll retrieve the beanbag and come back behind the trainer. If I land it in the furthest target, that's worth 4 points. The third target is 3, second target is 2, and the first target is 1. So for trying to get the target further away, I earn myself more points. So I could choose with my 5 shots what my total score is going to be. A little bit of maths involved there as well. You add up the total score and you can see what your score is. You could try and maybe work out an average. You could try and possibly subtract some points off that if you wanted. If you've done a missed shot, you might want to take away 2 points. So it's all about trying to be tactical as well as trying to get the beanbag to land where it wants to go. So I need to make sure I remember to eyes on the prize and point the toe to the target. So I'll have one quick go now. Ooh, 4 points. So this is another way of setting up a game. I've put down 5 trainers, they're the 5 marker points, and I've got my target at the end, okay? So it looks a little bit like that. Next game is going to be a ladder throwing game, okay? So from the previous video, you saw there was one target at the end, and I put 5 trainers down for each of the rungs of the ladder, okay? My job is to try and work my way all the way to the back, okay? So you start at the first marker. If you make it, you move back to the second marker. If you score from there, you move to the third one, and you keep going until you score all the way from the 5th marker. Okay? You can do this in a couple of ways. You could say, you could time the clock and see the first person to score from the last marker, and they might score in 40 seconds, and someone can try and beat it. You can try and beat your personal best if you've got no one to challenge against you. Or, even harder challenge, okay, is if you take your first shot and you score, you move back, and then if you miss, you have to go down 1 rung with a ladder. So you work your way up, then if you miss a shot, you've got to go back down. So that's a bit more of an extension task if you're a little bit older. You're going to try and push yourself. Of course, with this as well, you can make a smaller target at the end to make it even harder. You could move your markers further away. So it's up to you really, trial and error, see which way works best for you. See if you need a bit more of a challenge or you need to make it a little bit easier just to make sure you get those targets. Okay. So have lots of fun with that one. Okay, my final game today is set up a little bit like this. So I've got 4 markers facing the 4 baskets, all different sizes. You'll see it goes from largest basket to that side and it works its way down. All the markers are in the same line, but you can change this yourself if you want to move some further back, some closer. That is up to you. Right, moving on to the final game then today. This one is going to involve some physical activity as well as some throwing accuracy. So it's a bit similar to the cross-country skiing events where they've got to do some hard work and then they've got to take control themselves to aim and hit the targets. It's a similar game, but it's going to be adapted so you can do it in your back garden. Okay, so you start off, you need a starting position. For me, this is right where my marker is, in the centre of my decking. I'm then going to run to the left. Okay, little sprint and do 5 star jumps. I then come back to the middle and then I'm going to go and take my shot on the first basket. Okay, if I score from the white basket, I'll come back, put the beanbag back on the starting marker, I'll go and do my star jumps again, and then I'll move on to the grey, which is the second target. If I miss though, then I put the beanbag back, go back, do the star jumps again, and then I stay on the white one. And you stay there until you score, and eventually you'll get to the grey, and then the wicker, and then the red one. And then the first person to score from all 4 are the winners. If you've got someone to race, great, but you'll need 2 beanbags so you don't get in each other's way. If you haven't, don't worry, you can try and do it against the clock, and then you've got a target to try and beat either later on today or another time in the week or next week when you're looking for something to do, okay? So I'll give you a quick demonstration of how it should be looking. So I'll start on here, then I'll go, sprint, and run back, collect my beanbag, go to the first target, point my toe, eyes on the prize, underarm throw, I score. So I take the beanbag, put it back on my starting marker, I'll go back again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Collect it, and then I'll be moving on to the grey one, which is a little bit more challenging because it's a little bit smaller. Whew. And then when I've finished, I'll stop the clock, check my time, and I've got a target to try and beat. Lesson number 2, all on the underarm throw. Hopefully then you've remembered 2 of those key things we need to do. With the toe to the target, eyes on the prize, and make sure we use just the underarm throw, and you should be getting your beanbag to land in the targets in no time at all. So next week, or not next week, tomorrow, we're going to be looking at catching. So like always, send me some videos, tweet me some pictures, what you're getting up to. If you've got any great ways of how you can maybe adapt the games for your house, how you can possibly score them slightly differently, maybe use some maths in there as well. Okay, let me know.